sequence of returns is everything. If we lost 30 to 35% in our 40s, well, we live to fight another day, right? But if we lose 30% when we're 66 years old, ladies and gentlemen, that can permanently damage your plan. That can permanently damage your ability to retire.
Investment strategist Joe Tanius, he says he is excited about the possibility of more interest rate cuts, higher earnings, perhaps a gradual broadening of the market beyond tech. But he was telling CNBC about what's making him nervous for the year. And here's what he said.
Well, I think there's a lot to be nervous about. There's a lot to be worried about. And certainly you can talk about the client questions that we've been getting. There's a lot of anxiety about a bubble, about what's happening with tech and what's happening with AI. A lot of this concentration. Of course, inflation, just barely, touched on it. But the reality is inflation is likely to move higher, at least in the earlier part of the year. And that may certainly pour a little bit of cold water on hopes that the Fed is going to come out and cut monetary policy perhaps more aggressively than we'd like. So make no mistake, there are a lot of things to be concerned about. But I think about where we are today relative to where we were just a few months ago, and I think the risks have come down materially.
There are a lot of moving parts. We all know this. We all expect it. But how can we create a plan where we don't have to worry about it so much? And also, how do we use the opportunities to our advantage? What do we need to keep in mind in 2026?
I really think, even though this could be a positive year, I don't think it's going to be as good as the 17.5% year we had last year or the 20% year we had before. I hope I'm wrong, and I hope it goes through the roof. But I just think that may not be realistic. I think it's going to be very volatile. I think that we're going to have a lot of geopolitical concerns, whether it's going to be China maybe attempting to take over Taiwan because they just saw us doing the extraction of the prime minister of Venezuela. I think that China saw that. Maybe interestingly, it's like maybe we do that in Taiwan. The point is, I think there's a lot of things that now come on the table. So we just want to make certain if we have a volatile year, we don't make bad decisions, right? So here's number one. I want everyone out there to really think about reviewing your portfolio and doing what I call a stress test. Now, here's what that means. If you look at what you own, think about what if the market dropped 25 to 30, 35%. Here's the point. It doesn't matter that in the long run, I think it probably will come back, right? The thing to understand is, could you still pay your bills? Or are you the type that might panic sell if it goes down 25 or 35%? How close are you to retirement? Do you have enough cash, to ride it out? Because when you think about it, sequence of returns is everything. If we lost 30 to 35% in our 40s, well, we live to fight another day, right? Because we're not retiring yet. It's not necessarily a huge deal. We just wait for the market to come back. Hopefully it does, and we're fine. But if we lose 30% when we're 66 years old, and we're getting ready to pull an income, or we've already started pulling an income, ladies and gentlemen, that can permanently damage your plan. That can permanently damage your ability to retire. So that is the biggest thing that I want everyone to understand. How much risk you take is 100% controllable. You can decide if you should keep that amount of risk, or do you want to pare it back a little bit? At least at the moment, interest rates are still kind of a little bit higher. So there are some very attractive, safer investments where you can kind of lock in or at least minimize some downside risk and still potentially get a 4, 5, 6, or 7% rate of return. Now, if that is not attractive, then you can keep having risk. Just understand, if this is a volatile year, I think, frankly, the market is due for a 25 to a 35% correction. I don't think it'll last forever. I do think that this administration will do whatever they can to try to get it back on track if that were to be the case. But the truth is, some people, that knee-jerk reaction, they do some bad stuff. So the main thing to understand is, like, how would we react? And I have a story about this, which is why I mentioned this. Okay. So if you kind of think back, Heather, to 2022.
Yeah.
22 was not necessarily a very good year for the market. Not only did the market go down roughly 20%, bonds also lost 15 to 20% depending on what you owned. So there seemed to be no safe place to hide. And I had a client who was new to us, and she had, in the beginning of January 22, she had about $2.3 million. So she was getting ready for retirement. She was about 2 years to go, but she was 80% in stock. And we talked about this as, hey, how comfortable are you with your risk level? She was about 80% stock. She goes, well, I believe in the economy. I believe that, things are going to do good. And so I love my NVIDIA. I love my Microsoft. I love my Google. I don't really want to sell it. So she maintained that. That's fine. I have no problem with that. But by October, that 2.4 million had gone down to about 1.6 million. And she was starting to sweat and freak out. Now, here's the thing. Was she able to still retire within a 2-year period if she wanted? Yes, but guys, that wasn't the point. It was the mental aspect. It was the psychological anguish that she had 2.4 million and she had lost nearly $800,000 2 years before retirement. She wanted to sell it all. It was everything that my team could do to just say, hold on, let's just pump the brakes. Remember, we designed things correctly. We used the bucket system. We have 2 years worth of total income needs where it can't lose a dollar. That was luckily that 20%. We had it in really attractive insured investments that could not lose, that she ended up actually doing quite well on that year. But we had 2 years worth of income planned. We knew that in 2 years, when she wanted to retire, what was going to create the income for her to spend. And the money that she was freaked out about, that's money that we really didn't even expect that we were going to need for 15 to 20 years. Okay. So that is what we had to do because she had a properly structured plan. But when we reminded her of that, you could see all of a sudden the cloudy eyes started to get a little bit better. And she's like, oh, I'm good. It's like, well, psychologically, we feel like we're impaired. We feel like there's been a problem, but realistically on paper, we're fine. But here's the thing. You got to think about this story and think about, does it apply to you? Are you one of those people that if you saw $2 million go down to $1.5 million or your $1 million go down to 700,000 right before retirement, would you freak out? Would you feel like you could still retire? Do you have 2 or 3 years worth of income set aside? Or do you have a guaranteed pension? Or is Social Security plus your pension going to be enough? Or do you have an annuity that will kick in and pay you an income when you're no longer working? Because those are big deals, right? So the one thing I really want everyone to do at the beginning of the year, it is a perfect time to just look at your risk. If you don't understand it, ask your guy. If there's someone helping you manage your money, ask him. Say, hey, how much risk do I have? If the market went down 25 to 30%, how much would I go down? Listen for their answer. Hopefully they don't say, I don't know, or don't worry about that. Hopefully they don't. Hopefully they say, remember, we've got, like we do it. You got 2 years worth of income ready to rock. We know exactly what's going to create income from you the day that you retired, and all that money that you're worried about, we don't even need that for 15 or 20 years. If they say that, you probably have a great game plan. If you don't have that, or if they don't say that, give my team a call. We will create the exact type of structure for you that fits your needs, regardless of if you're going to retire 10 years from now or you just retired. Makes no difference. So that's a big thing to understand about volatility. It is a big deal. Now, part number 2 that I want to talk about. He talked about inflation issues. Now, guys, it's been a little while since we saw inflation tick up. This is one of the biggest arguments against Trump wanting them to reduce interest rates, is that if we reduce interest rates a little early, we could have hyperinflation again, right? And so I don't personally think we're going to get back to 6 or 7 or 8% inflationary rates. We were higher than that post-COVID, but we could still be losing money if we have too much money in safe accounts earning not very much. If the bank's only paying us 3.5 to 4, but inflation's more like 4.5 to 5, guys, that's a big deal. So you want to make sure, what are your inflationary hedges? Do you own any gold? Do you have any commodities? Do you own them physically? Do you have them in exchange traded funds? Do you have them in mutual funds? Do you have any kind of an annuity that might keep up and have a cost of living adjustment, right? Those are things that can help offset these things, where we don't have to worry so much about inflation, because there's nothing that individually a single one of us can do about if there's inflation or not. Absolutely nothing. What we can do is prepare for it. That is a big thing. So if you're not earning at least 5, 6, 7% on your safe money, you probably need some other options, or at least explore the other things available, because yes, you still can get those type of rates of return right now. Now, if they start dropping rates more, and they're expected to do that the beginning part of the year, all bets are off. No one knows what the rates are going to go down to. But sometimes you can still lock those rates in for 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 years. I don't know how much longer I'd go than that, but 2 to 5 years, I think, is really good if you get a 5 or 6% style of rate of return. So inflation is going to be one of those big things I want everyone to think about, regardless of how the market conditions are, regardless of what the administration does, regardless of the midterm election. We can protect ourselves from inflation, and we can protect ourselves from the psychological warfare that's going to be volatility. If we focus on those 2 things, I think we'll have a good year, because I think that Joe is right. I think we're in for a seesaw ride. And the question is, are we going to jump off? Are we going to stay on there? Because statistically, we'll be perfectly safe, even if we don't like the ups and downs.
Yeah. Well, working to create shelters, mini shelters within our plan, if you will, and spaces for added safety, added security measures. That's the point of the kind of planning that John and his team at J. Hagan Capital do, and that they can show you what your opportunities might be within your own plan. But it's different for every single person that they meet, which is why we always encourage you to reach out. Let's begin the conversation about your plan, because it will be unique to you. So you can begin the conversation as soon as right now. We've got links posted in the show notes, or find us at retirementsolutionshow.com, and let's get to work helping you understand economic concerns and how you can hopefully have a retirement that can disregard a lot of that by putting the proper things in place for your financial future. Again, it's retirementsolutionshow.com.